Alright, hello. I know I haven't made a tutorial in a while, so I'm back with another one here. So today what I want to be showing you is how to do a little bit of sculpting in Blender and possibly do a whole entire project, take you through the entire walkthrough. So to do this, we're going to use dynamic topology sculpting. And this is different from regular sculpting in Blender because it subdivides the mesh as you're sculpting, whereas regular sculpting just takes the polygons you have and will move them using multiple brushes inside Blender's sculpting engine. So there's a page here all about dynamic topology sculpting. If you want to check it out, there's some good examples here. You know, like this was made with dynamic topology, and it's just amazing. Like this here was made by Nicholas, or mispronounced his name. Amazing Blender artist. I've seen his work multiple places. Yeah, so let's get started. What I'm going to do is going to add a polysphere. So just type in add polysphere. Should work if you have the latest version of Blender. Go to the front view. I'm just going to turn off this little widget here with control space. I'm going to go to sculpt mode. Now, one thing that really helps, I find when sculpting, is this awesome feature called matte caps. So under your display, under your end panel here, just choose matte cap. I also hear that turning the material mode to GLSL helps. And then you have all these matte caps here also. So I like to use a darker matte cap when I'm starting. If you're like from ZBrush or something, you can use this red one. You might be used to that. And so we also don't get this like grid flow or anything. We can turn that off. And if the rest of this bugs you visually, you can just use only render. I also like to blend this guy here. Nice gradient. Paper and blend under your world settings. This way, it can help you just a little bit there on a little edge there, as to how you want to see your sculpt there. Right. So we're not going to use dynamic topology just yet. I'm going to turn X-axis mirror on and use my grab brush, and we're just going to make a simple head, like a bust mesh. So that's like, you know, sort of like the Venus de Milo. Have you ever seen that before? It's just literally just a head mesh. Well, the Venus de Milo has a body, but this is just going to be a head mesh made with sculpting. So I have my grab brush here, and I just use F to scale it up. You can see under the radius over here, it actually moves. And then strength is Shift F, but I don't believe the grab brush uses that. Right, so let's just get a generic head shape. It's pretty simple to do this. One thing I do suggest is that if you do have a pen tablet, like I do, is using that. I don't know, I just find it a lot smoother of a workflow when you're working with that. I'm using my mouse right now, so yeah, I usually use my pen tablet when it comes to actual dynamic topology sculpting. I know it just feels a lot smoother. But when you're just bulking out the form, I just use a mouse. It's pretty simple to use that. Right, so just blocking out the form here. And it doesn't have to be anatomically correct. You know, it's just a small project just to get used to dynamic topology or just sculpting in general. Right, so there's also a lot of these brushes here. I, for one, do not actually use every single one. I probably use 5, but there are some really useful brushes here. Ones I use quite frequently are grab, clay strips, snake hook, smooth, mask, and that's actually almost it. Sometimes I use crease, and of course the sculpt draw. Those are some of the best brushes, though. Okay, so we have a basic head shape here. So what we're going to do now is enable dynamic, and what this does is, let me just show you the mesh right here first. You can see it has pretty good topology already, like it's all quads and whatnot. So if we tap back now to sculpt mode and enable dynamic, well, you can kind of see right away something happened. But if we tap into edit mode, the mesh has been triangulated. And by the way, if you tap out of sculpt mode with dynamic topology enabled, it'll disable itself. So you just hit Control D to enable it. The reason it's triangulated though is because the dynamic part of the topology, the reason it's dynamic is in OpenGL, which is what Blender uses for its graphics interface, it renders everything in triangles. So when you're sculpting, this will actually subdivide the triangles. And I'll just show you that now. I'll just use, say, the draw brush. I'll just go into wireframe mode. Just start drawing, and you can see right away it just subdivides everything. So it uses triangles because if it was to use quads, it would be much slower. I don't know if it's even possible to do that with quads yet. So that's why it triangulates your mesh. So just something to keep in mind. You have some little options here like symmetrize. So don't have mirror on, draw on one side. Oh, you want that side too. It tells you which direction, so it'll go to your negative to positive. So symmetrize, get rid of that if it's like that. But if we go positive x to negative x, then symmetrize, it'll get that on the other side. Optimize. This recalculates the BVH, which is somewhat of a vertex buffer, I do believe. It'll just make it run a little faster. Collapse short edges. We'll get into that a little bit later. If we add horns or something to this, and I'll show you why. And smooth shading, does as it says, smooth shading. Alright, so I'm just going to get rid of those there, undo it. Alright, so let's just get sculpting. I'm going to start with clay strips. This adds a little bit of density. If we use Shift F, we can increase or decrease the strength. So outwards is decreasing, inwards is increasing. Also, this little detail size, it's based on pixels. So basically, like the detail size is at 30. If we go in, you can see how small the pixels are. If we decrease this, you see it's a lot denser. If we increase this quite a bit, it barely subdivides at all. Let's just get rid of those because it's quite small detail we don't need. I usually keep mine at 25 when starting out. Or, well, actually throughout the whole sculpt, that's what I usually have. I don't change it too much, but that's all about preference. Alright, so I'm just going to add a little bit of density to this. Kind of rough out the shape of it. And then you can just use the shift, hold down shift to smooth it out. And if you choose collapse short edges while using shift, anything smaller than this detail size will actually be collapsed. It'll be deleted, sort of. So that's handy if you have a very dense mesh. Alright, so I just like to add a lot of polygons here so you're not stretching too much of the polygons when you use brushes that aren't dynamic topology enabled, such as the grab brush. So doing that, now you have a little more polygons to play with there. We can make like an alien head or something here. Alright, so I'm going to start now with my sculpt draw brush. And one thing I'm going to show you is this is actually a little trick I learned in one of my art classes at my school before summer here. And that is that the eyes are actually in the center of the head. So if I just hold down D, I can use this draw here. Sorry, I'm not exactly the straightest of drawers when it comes with the mouse. So the eyes are actually right about there. So I just went in with the draw tool here, hold down Control to invert the action. So as you can see here, it's on add, which is highlighted by blue. If I hold down Control, it'll actually subtract. So the eyes are actually roughly in the center of the head there, if you want to be anatomically correct. Right, so it's a good thing to keep in mind. So just regarding that inverse action there, if I go to subtract and hold down Control, it'll actually add. Right, so let's just let's see. Maybe we can pull out a mouth here. use 4 to get my clay strips brush there. So the thing about dynamic topology sculpting is that it really gives you a lot of freedom to just experiment, do whatever you want. It's a lot like if you ever use ZBrush, it's a lot like Dynamesh, I guess you could say, because you can just do whatever you want with Dynamesh, just like with Blender Sculpt. The dynamic topology here just allows you like endless creativity, mainly because it subdivides the mesh for you. So yeah, it's quite awesome. I use my crease brush here. That's automatically set to subtract, so it actually indents the mesh. And it's usually quite weak, so I usually like to amp it up just a little bit. There we go, something like that. G for grab. There is another software out there, I do believe, that actually does dynamic topology stuff as well, called 3D Coat. I did download the demo version. It takes a while to get used to, but it's also quite a nice software if you want to check that out. Alright, so let's just take a look here. Another tip I actually had from read before is that you should change your materials often to see what your mesh looks like under different lighting conditions. Alright, so we can see there we basically have the same form no matter what we go to. Shiny gold, plasma green. So it's good to change your matte cap material at times just to see what it looks like. I'm going to change this skin-like one here. Alright, so let's just go to this snake hook, and this is actually quite a useless brush, I'd have to say, before dynamic topology started, because it's just a lot more helpful if you have it subdivide as you're pulling out the mesh. I'll show you what I mean by that in a second there. But it used to just stretch your polygons, and with dynamic topology, it'll actually subdivide it. So when using the snake hook, you want to use collapse toward edges because, well, if you don't, I'll show you here. You can actually see some stretching in the polygons there. Collapse toward edges actually helps because it'll collapse it as it goes. Let's just pull out something here. Maybe go behind his head there. There we go. Just a little tweaking here. Now let's just use the twist brush. This is something I don't use very often, but well, it does as it says, it twists the mesh. There you go. That's kind of the position I wanted there. Yeah, it's looking pretty good there. What we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how to use this mask brush. Right, so I got these how I want them. So what I want to do is just draw on top of them. That's a little odd. Yes, you have to take the matte cap off in order to see this here. We can just draw on a mask, and what this will do is actually won't allow you to affect whatever part of the mesh is darkened. In a sense, it is freezing the mesh as it is. And to prove this here, if I try to draw onto this, you can see nothing is happening. Right, so what I want to do now is I want to take my grab brush. And I'm just going to switch over to using my pen here. I just want to shape this a little better. kind of give an impression of maybe like a temple or something. If you actually are looking for a tablet, a graphics tablet, I have one from Wacom. It's the Intuos 4, I do believe. And I'd say it's like a great brush, or sorry, great tablet for the price. I do believe it was around $300 what I got it for. It's quite nice. If you're really into sculpting and things like that, I do suggest possibly saving up for one. Alright, so I'm just taking my draw brush here and adding in some little details. Move that out. Alright, I'm going to add another polysphere here. Switch back to my mouse. And now we're placed in object mode. So the reason I'm doing this is I actually want to show where the eyes are so I can get a better feel of how that's going to work. I'm just going to add in a mirror modifier, mirror it on the polysphere. We should actually probably rename this here. So if we go under item, we can just call this head high poly, as we are going to make a lower poly version later on. Alright, so just scale these down a bit. Alright, so I'll check my recording here. Make sure it doesn't crash. Alright, so we can select this here. Let's quickly just name these here as eyes. And we can apply the mirror modifier later. Select the head mesh, go back to sculpt mode. And I think we can take off that mask now. I got the rest of that around there good. So to clear the mask, you just under hide/mask and clear mask, or Alt M. And now we can use our matte cap material again. I quite like matte caps. They give you different lighting conditions for your mesh. It's quite nice to have. Alright, so now we'll just draw on some eyelids here. It's a little too strong. Smooth it out a bit. Just grab some of this down here. Just add a little bit of density. Alright, zoom out, see how that looks. I'd say it looks pretty decent. So add a little bit of stuff here. Another thing I should probably mention is that this clay strip brush is actually quite good if you're using it for anatomy. Or at least that's what I find at times. For example, like, let's go to the back head, might be a little more accurate. Let's say this is a torso and you want to, like, say, draw in some pectorials. You know, the muscles actually kind of go into that form. So it can somewhat be used for that. Alright, so just enable dynamic again. optimize, symmetrize, and all that. There we go, got some eyelids on this guy. Let's pull out a little neck there. Actually, to do this, what we want to use is the snake hook. So to make this more than just the head, actually make it bust. Add a little bit of density there because polygons are stretching. I forgot to turn on collapse short edges there. That's alright though. Quick fix. Just turn that on now and try to smooth it out. It should work. I do believe if you also go under this brush menu here, sculpt tool, you can actually have a brush here, simplify. This will actually simplify the mesh. Also, it's basically decimating the mesh. Alright, so this is set to simplify when I go to clay strip, so let's just switch that back. If you actually want a proper brush for the simplify there, or just want to make your own brush, you just add this little plus button here. We can just call this the simplify. And then we just choose simplify. Now we have our own little simplify brush. Simple as that. Alright, so let's take the grab tool, move this a little bit. Smooth this out a bit. You could literally spend hours perfecting meshes like this. I know this one isn't really quite high quality, but for this demo, you know, it's pretty good, I'd say. So now let's just do a little bit of detailing on the neck here. Add a little bit of muscle going down this way. Smooth it. Let's actually turn on smooth shading here, see how that looks. Sorry if you can hear a little bit of screaming in the background. My mom's babysitting and there's a little 2-year-old here, quite hyper. Right, so at times when doing sculpting like this, dynamic topology will create these little artifacts, as you can see right here. If you try to smooth them out, they sometimes will, sometimes won't. Most of the time it's the latter, they won't. Unfortunately. There might be ways to get around this, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't actually found quite many ways to get around it, but I have heard of people finding ways. I'll research that and put that up in another video possibly. I'll kind of create an X there, it's kind of neat. Alright, looking from the side view there, it's way far out. So you gotta keep rotating your model quite a bit. Make sure you're not overdoing certain proportions. I'll use my clay strips brush for this now. Just smooth it down. I'd say that's pretty good. Neck might be a little large, so let's go to the side view. Yeah, so a lot of this is just like moving around points and whatnot. And you know what, I think that's actually pretty good for this tutorial. Don't want it to go on too long, so see how long have I been recording for? Some seconds, alright. So yeah, that is all for this tutorial. When we're finished, in the next tutorial what we'll do is start to re-topologize this mesh as simple as it is. This is just an example. So we will start to re-topologize this mesh, and in further tutorials we will paint it, add a bump map and whatnot. We're not adding any extra detail to this. All of it will be added into a bump map and whatnot. And we will paint it, and I'll show you how to do a turntable render. So until then, good luck with the sculpting your what you have there. And yeah, thanks for watching.